Welcome everybody to the RightTool certification program. This is the third installment on the three-part series, part 303, November/December 2025 edition. We've covered on part one all the content required for the free certified user program. And on part two and this part three that you're watching now, that both of those parts are going to be for the certified expert program. Quick reminder that you will be able to watch all three of these for free in YouTube. This gets posted into YouTube later. Regardless of whether you're a RightTool user or not, you'll be able to watch it. So if you're doing this just for educational sake, you're welcome to do so. To get certified, you do have to log in into the RightToolPro.com portal. We'll cover that at the end. And take the exam. A free user can only take the certified user exam, and a paid or pro user has to take both the certified user exam to unlock the certified expert exam. Both of part one and part two are already in YouTube. The links are available in the slides if you need to access them. And we'll put the slides in the chat comment section below. Now, we're working on RightTool version 1.37.5 on December 1st, 2025. If you're watching this in the future, hello from the past. Make sure that you understand that there could be new features added. And the only thing that is going to be, you're going to be tested on for the foreseeable future, probably through all of most of 2026, it will be based on this recording. So even if we add new features along the way through the years, this should be the core content that we'll use for the certification process. Today, we'll talk briefly about the Certified Expert Pro program, and then we'll go straight into all the batching features that we haven't covered in part one. So we're going to be focused on all the batching features, which are mostly under the Batch Pro category, but there's one under Chart of Accounts Pro. And then we'll talk about the process of taking the exam. So let's get started with batch edit chart of accounts. I'm gonna pass over the screen to Mark because I know he's got something prepared for batch editing the chart of accounts. He'll go ahead and show us that. And Mark, if you can, show us where in RightTool you go enable that feature.
Yeah, let me just get over to it. Okay, screen two. Okay, so I'm going to have this load while I'm going there. So inside of RightTool settings, we're just going to go into COA Pro. And inside of here, the very last thing here is batch edit COA. Now I'm going to go inside of the chart of accounts. And what will happen is I'm just going to click this batch edit. That's just the same one that you use to batch edit the chart of accounts normally in QuickBooks. And it might take a second, but there should be a batch edit button in red that pops up when you do this. If you click on that, it will pop up a window like this. Now, you can choose to export either just the current page of the chart of accounts, or you can export all accounts. If you export the current page, you'll have just slightly more information inside of this account section right here. So I'm just going to open up the file that comes up. So I've exported the current page of the chart of accounts. And so inside of here, it will actually tell you what the type of the chart of account or what the type of the account is if you want that. If you export all the accounts, then it will not have the type in here. So just be aware of that. The only two things you need to worry about editing are going to be the account number and account name column inside of here. So let's say that I want to change all of these things right here. I want to change the account numbers to, let's use a really crazy number here, 577, and then we're just going to do 53777, and I'm just going to copy that down, assuming that Excel wants to work the way you want it to. And let's also say for these, I'm going to say winches are new or something like that, and travel expense uh, ATM. Let's see that. And so I'm just going to now, I can either copy the whole page, so I can just copy all of these lines right here, assuming that, again, my mouse isn't going to be weird about it. So I can either copy all of these, and when I paste it into here and click update accounts, it will actually, first of all, it'll see if there's any potential duplicates that are inside of the report. So that means that if there are any duplicates, um, we will remove them just to make sure, because the way QuickBooks works is you cannot use duplicated account numbers or account names. So we'll remove them for you so it'll still work even if you have duplicates. Then after that, I'm going to cancel on that. It'll actually look into the accounts and say, are these the account? It would actually keep a track of how many accounts you're changing. So you don't have to select only the accounts that you want to change. You can just select the entire document and put it in here and it'll still work. And then I'm going to press OK. And once everything's changed, it will refresh the page like this. And let's see here. The pay what I'm looking for here is I'm going to look for these hotels and the winches and everything like that, where 537 is on there. If it is not showing up for you, let me know. The chart of accounts page can be annoyingly weird uh, about when it wants to work with RightTool. So there could be a chance that it will be problematic on that
Yeah,
front.
if one thing I recommend if you're watching this live, when you watch the recorded certification afterwards, you can pause and that sort of thing. When you watch live, it's gonna be hard. Even if you have two screens, it'll be hard to keep up with it. So just show really quick again where you turn
Yeah.
the feature on.
Yeah.
So we're going to
So the feature is turned on in RightTool settings in Batch Edit COA.
okay, and then make sure you click on Save and Refresh all QBO tabs if you recently had turned it on. So that's the first step. And
Yeah.
then second step in the chart of accounts, you're gonna have to wait for the whole page to load. Okay, that's a feature of RightTool. You have to kind of wait until the whole page loads. So RightTool can write the code through the whole page. Sometimes the code goes at the very end of the page. So like don't expect it to like just immediately show up. Just wait for the whole page to load. Then once the whole
Yeah.
page loads, there's no more circles moving around. You click on the edit the pencil button first. So we're enabling this after. It's a two-step process. You have to click on the pencil button first. So once
Yeah.
you click on the pencil button, okay, after you click on the pencil button, you give it a second, the batch edit button shows up. So it's a kind of a two-step process. So the batch edit button is not there immediately.
Yes, you have to. That's the big thing you have to do is make sure you click on that pencil button right there, and it should show up after that. So yeah. So that was the batch edit COA. Again, you can choose to export all accounts. So this is one of the things that makes it different as well, is you can edit all the accounts at once if you want to, or you can just edit a page at a time. One final thing to keep in mind, do not, it says it here in the top of this thing, do not edit this column. This is how we track exactly where everything needs to go. So do not edit this. You can edit this original full name and this type column if you want. Just realize that it's not going to do anything. The only two columns that are editable are the account number and account name. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. So I'm going to take over the screen now. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to start with sort of the first half of the batching features. We'll cover batch create in register, batch delete in register, batch edit in register, batch delete recurrent transactions, batch delete in search, and batch edit inside reports. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and log out of QuickBooks really quick here. And then I'm gonna use the sample file. So that way it could be, you can try this on your own too. So I'm just going to go to QBO test drive, Google that, and then we'll work on the same sample file that you can work on. That way, if you want to test it on your own, because we're going to be doing a lot of deleting. So obviously you don't want to be doing deleting on a real file, right? Okay, so we're in the sample file and we're going to go through all these features. So the first one I'm going to cover is batch create in the register, batch delete, and batch edit in the register. Basically, we're going to go into the register and we're going to cover all three of these in order. Create first, bulk create, batch delete, and batch edit. So when we turn this on, is we're going to click on the settings button, which is the wrench and screwdriver button there. We're going to go into Batch Pro on the left-hand side. And then we're going to turn I'm going to turn them all on for simplicity, but I'm doing right now batch delete in the register, batch edit in the register, and the one called bulk create, basically the three that are in the register. Okay. Another quick tip here is if you just type register in the top, in the search, it shows you all the features that are connected to the register. And the ones that we're going to be dealing with are the batching features inside of the register. Okay, so let's go back into QuickBooks here. And we're going to go into any register. There's obviously two ways to get into the register. One is you can go into the chart of accounts and click on view register on any particular account. So that's just one way to get into it. Or two, if you have the bank register link or shortcut already in your RightTool shortcuts. So for example, let's say I happen to be in the homepage and I have bank register here, and then we by default add that, but sometimes people add or remove them or whatever. You can go there, that can go straight into the register, and then you can click on the drop-down menu here and pick which account you want to manipulate. So we're going to start with bulk enter. So bulk enter means you can paste into the register. So I'm going to go into a file that I have here in Google Sheets that has a bunch of transactions just so we can use as a sample. So I have it right here. And if you want to play with this, this is a sample file that we created just so Mark and I can do demos. I'm going to go ahead and make this public if you want to play with it and test it on the QBO sample file. That's kind of the key element here. So we're going to include this in the slides here. Let me just go in here and I'm just going to do bulk create in the register. I'm going to add a hyperlink to that. Okay. So now if you're in the slides, if you refresh the slides, there should be a hyperlink on that. And that will take you to the same sample file that I'm using to copy and paste data into it. So you can test it on your own on a QBO sample file. Okay. So I'm in the register here. And essentially, I'm going to click on a button that says bulk enter. So it's right there on the top. It's right next to reset batch buttons. It's a classic red button, like all the RightTool tools. We click on bulk enter, and then we get the screen that should look familiar if you've ever done pasting into a transaction, pasting into a journal entry. And the key here is that we can drag and drop a CSV file if we happen to have it on our desktop, drag and drop, or we can just copy and paste into this green box that's here. You want to copy and paste in there. Now, one of the great options that we have in all of our pasting tools is we can export all the list data. So if you click on export all the list data, you can get, let's call it a template. I'm just going to click and drag that in here. And what a template will do is it will give you a list of every single drop-down menu item that we have. So in this case, it would be my payees, my accounts. If you have classes turned on, if you have locations turned on, those will be drop-down menus. So it gives you basically a flat spreadsheet that contains every single entry that could possibly be there. So all my customers and vendors are going to be under payee. And then all of my accounts, my whole chart of accounts is going to be here under account. And again, if I had classes and locations turned on, you would see those too. And then you have the column structure of what it would look like if you had a template. So it's both a template and an export of all your drop-down menu. So whichever way you want to use it for that. So let's say, for example, I happen to have a list of transactions. Maybe it's a cash register that I've been tracking by hand. Maybe it's something that I downloaded from the bank. And as long as the payees match exactly what's in QuickBooks and the accounts match exactly what's in QuickBooks, and then if there's classes and locations, those will have to match exactly what's in QuickBooks, you should be able to copy and paste. If they don't match QuickBooks, they'll come up blank and you'll have an error or the transaction won't come in. So this is only useful if you actually have that list of accounts and list of names. And that was the purpose of exporting the list in the beginning. The list that I talked about is so you can match them or make sure that you're using those names verbatim. So then it'll let you copy and paste. So then all we have to do is once we have this already, again, maybe we downloaded this from the bank. Maybe this is from a Shopify, transaction list, maybe a manual register, maybe a point of sale system, whatever it is, you happen to have it in Excel. Why type it into QuickBooks? So we're going to copy the information, make sure the structure looks like this: date, reference number, payee, account, memo, payment, deposit, right? So payment will be all your expenses. Deposit will be all your income, money coming into the bank. And we go into QuickBooks here, and then we're going to paste that in here, okay? If any of the vendors don't match, so if you have something that doesn't match, it will come up as red. If it kind of sort of matches, where there's some components of it are common with other list items, you have a menu up here of options where you can try to match it manually. So that's only when you have kind of a partial match. So you can match it to the one that works. Same thing with accounts. Okay, so if I have something that kind of matches, so INS, it gives you all the potential accounts that you could be using so you can pick the right account. Okay, memo, it doesn't need to match because it's just free text. And payment and deposit, as long as it's the right format, okay, it could have a dollar value, it could have a dollar sign, or it could have no dollar sign, but it needs to have only 2 decimals. More decimals starts acting weird. And the dating for, has to work as well. Now, one little caveat here is the reference number. If you include a reference number, whether it's letters or numbers, it will assume it's a check. If you leave it blank, it assumes it's an expense. So that's only when you import into banks. If you import into credit cards, it doesn't matter. It's all going to be an expense or a credit card charge. But that's the only little caveat here is if you want it to come in as a check, just add a number to it. Then at the bottom, append to memo, you can add anything you want. Like we created a default thing called RT bulk. That way, if you ever want to search transactions that were entered in bulk, you could always do a memo search for that hashtag RT bulk. But you can put whatever you want. You can put added by Hector via bulk, or imported from POS system. You can add whatever you want, and then it appends. So whatever's in the memo now, it adds it in addition to the memo. And you may want to insert a space or two into that just to make sure that there's spacing between your original memo and what's being appended. Then you're going to click on bulk enter, and you're going to just watch. Okay, so it's going to take about maybe 1/3 of a second per transaction. So about 3 transactions per second, 2 transactions per second. So you're just going to keep that in mind if you're bringing 100 transactions or 1,000 transactions. Just kind of keep that in mind. We recommend it through our testing to maybe do 100 at a time, but we've done up to 500, right? But just because browsers can get locked up and the internet can come down for a second or whatever, it's mostly useful to just do a couple at a time. One thing you can do is you can take a look at the current balance that you have now before bulk importing. Then take a look at the 100 transactions that you're bringing in, see what the difference is in debits and credits. And then after you're done, make sure that the balance is there. That will give you an idea whether it was imported complete or no. Unfortunately, we don't have like an error mechanism. If something is skipped or something, we coded it in a way that shouldn't happen, but that's how you do it. So now we have all these transactions that were entered in bulk for 2026. You can see because we had it in our spreadsheet. So definitely you can test this yourself in a QBO sample file if you want to. Mark, did I leave anything out on this?
I think the only 2 things to say is one, just make sure everybody knows this does only do single line transactions. So if you have more complicated types of transactions you're trying to import, you will need to use either QuickBooks Advanced or a SASANT type tool in order to import more complicated transaction types. And second of all is when you type in the ref number, you can put in to print in the ref number if you want to add it as a check that will be added to the print list inside of QuickBooks.
Okay, that's a good point. So when he's mentioning more complicated lines, eventually if the data you're trying to bring is not shown in here, we can bring it. So we're emulating typing it in here. That's what we're doing at least on this version of the tool that we have now. Eventually, at some point, we'll create some sort of batch entry tool, but for the purposes of this certification exam, our bulk entry tool just simulates what's on the screen at the moment. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, so we talked about batch bulk create in the register. Now let's talk about batch delete in the register and batch edit in the register. Let me start with batch delete. And there's a subsection that says save deleted transactions to a CSV. Basically creates a mini backup of what you deleted, just in case something broke, and you need to bring it back or whatever, right? So that's an option. And another quick question that people have is, can you import sales receipts? So in theory, we should be able to build that at some point in the future, because we can do that, but we don't have a sales receipt importing tool. And the kind of the challenge for that is because when you bring in sales receipts through here, you can't pick the product or service. It selects a product or service by default, and that's what frustrates people. That if I had a sales receipt importing tool, I want to control the product and services that I'm importing. So because you can't do it, because QuickBooks does allow you to enter from the register sales receipts, and you can't control that, we have opted out not to do sales receipts at the bottom at the moment, because it just kind of forces a particular product or service that just goes into a default account. So that's kind of the reason why we don't do sales receipts at the moment. Okay. So let's move on to batch deleting. And let's say, for example, I imported a couple of things that I wasn't supposed to, or they went into the wrong account, whatever it is. So we click on batch, select one. We can hold the shift key and click down arrow a couple of times if you want to kind of just, granularly pick a couple of transactions. Or if you know all these all the way down up to this one, hold the shift key and click on that, and it selects them all in a group, or select them, one by one as you pick what you want to delete. Now, just these little check boxes, they're added by RightTool. They don't exist by default in QuickBooks. So we added those check boxes for the purposes of the batch delete or the batch edit as well, for either one. So we'll click on delete here, and then it gives you a warning. Hey, you're about to delete 17 transactions, which is a total of $13,000. Keep in mind that there's some transactions that we can delete, like payroll related and tax related. We can delete those just because QuickBooks creates mechanisms for that. And then you click OK, and then you click OK, and boom, it starts deleting them. Again, it does about 2 or 3 per second, so you can just maybe watch it delete. Now, immediately after it deletes, because we selected a sub option to create a CSV file, you can open up that CSV file. Let me close that one and open that new one. And eventually the CSV file was a log of what you deleted. So if you wanted to have a record of what was deleted, you got the original payee information, you got the account information, you got the memo, you got the deposit. And exactly in the same way that we imported doing the bulk delete, if you messed up, then you can just use this information to import it back. So you have that ability to do that, because QuickBooks doesn't have really an undo button for transactions, so you can't like undo a delete. So in order to fix something that you deleted that you weren't supposed to, you will have to bulk import it back in. That's what we covered: bulk import first, and then batch delete afterwards. Anything?
Yeah, and just to Yeah, I was just going to say, just to reiterate, if you go back to the RightTool options, this is the part where we save a spreadsheet for you. Again, it's not turned on by default. If you want that extra bit of security there, where you're like, I want that extra Excel file to be saved, then just turn that on right there. And again, it'll give you a little bit of a backup. Now, again, we can't re-import anything that has a split or anything on it. So those you couldn't put back in if you delete it through here, at least not with the bulk create. So just be aware of that.
Perfect. Now let's talk about batch editing. So for example, let's say that these were coded to the wrong customer or to the wrong account. Okay, so basically we'll click on batch, select the transactions that were coded to the wrong customer. You can even use this in conjunction with the current filtering system. So for example, we'll go into filters and we select a particular payee here and click on apply. So it gives me all the transactions of that payee. Then afterwards, you can just click on reset batch buttons if the batch button gets lost. Click on batch, select them both, then click on edit, and then change whatever you want to change. So if you want to change the payee, click on close, change it to a different payee because we used the wrong customer, whatever it is. Click on confirm batch, click OK. Notice that one of these was a sales receipt and the other one was a deposit. So even though we can't bulk enter sales receipts, we can batch edit the editable fields from a sales. There's only a limited amount, like the payee. Let's say, for example, we picked not the wrong payee, but maybe the wrong expense account. Okay, so let me narrow this down to checks so we can see all the checks. And let's say, for example, all these were supposed to go to a different account. So we select them in group. Again, we can filter by, we can sort by date, we can filter by payee. I mean, whichever way you want to do the filtering. Go to batch edit. Instead of changing the payee, I want to change the account. Click on close. Click on the drop-down menu to change the account. I think in this case, we have a challenge here. Click on the drop-down menu, change the account. So let's say these were all supposed to go to cost of goods sold, and then click on confirm batch. Okay, really important. You got to make sure that in the drop-down menu, if you created a sales receipt from here, you don't have this stuck in sales receipt or bill payment or something like that, because it won't let you pick the account. So make sure that you're on check or deposit, which is like the standard ones that we use to be able to access everything. So then we pick the account that we want to change, click on confirm batch, click OK, and then in batch, it will change that. If you have classes and locations turned on, it works with classes and locations as well. Now, QuickBooks does have a reclassify feature built in. So let me just go to the reclassify transactions feature. So people ask me, Hector, I have this, I can do reclassifying from here. True, but you cannot change pays, and you cannot filter by a particular source account, right? So it just shows you everything that's hitting a particular account. The nice thing about, or the alternative, or using the register, is that you do it source account by source account. So if I only want to edit things that are, from checking account A, or from saving account, or from cash account, whatever it is. So it allows you to really narrow down your batch reclassification based on where the transactions are sitting. So that's one of the first advantages. The second advantage is that if your transactions have been reconciled, you actually get the filter in here. You don't get it in the reclassify screen. So if you want to look at only reconciled transactions, or if you want to look at the opposite, you want to look at only transactions that haven't been reconciled, then you get to filter by those. And let's say, for example, that you want to batch delete everything that has been unreconciled up to a particular date, right? Because let's say, for example, we already reconciled everything up to, let's just say, October 31st, 2025, then click on apply. So then what's left is all the transactions that have been unreconciled in the register up to that time. Then you can batch and delete all those or edit those, right? So you do have that additional context for either deleting or editing, which is a source account, filtering, which is natural because you're in that register, and whether or not it's been clear. So other than that, I think that the reclassify page works really well. But yeah, those are essentially the limitations. One thing that people ask me all the time is, can I batch edit the particular project or customer job on the transaction? The answer is no. From this screen, there's actually other screens that allow us to do that. The other piece here is changing source accounts. So for example, classic issue is maybe we bulk imported into the wrong account, or when we connected the banks, we added the transactions and we connected it to the wrong account. Let's say some of these transactions were supposed to go in the savings account and they're sitting in the checking account. So to do that is we can do batch. We select the transactions that we want to remove. Again, we want to get them out of the checking account and into the savings account. So what we're essentially doing is we're transferring, we're not changing the expense category, the income category, we're not changing the payee, we're changing what account it's written on, like the source account. So we'll go to edit, and then we select source account. Now, one thing that's very important is if you select source account, that's the only thing you can change at a time. You can't change the source account and individual things inside of it. So you either change the source account or you can change everything inside of it. So we'll go to change source account, click on close, and then you have a different drop-down menu, one that didn't exist before, one that's magically added in here, which is going to be a list of all the source accounts you could potentially add into here. And keep in mind that if the transaction is a deposit, you can't put deposits into a credit card, right? So you got to keep in mind that not all transactions can be moved if we move across different account types. So this is, if you go from bank to bank, great. From credit card to credit card, great for that sort of thing. So we're going to go we're going to move them into the savings, click on confirm batch, and then you're going to see all these transactions actually going to go away from this screen one by one. All 6 of those are going to go away because they're no longer in here. I now can go into my savings account and I should see those 2026 transactions that I just move them from one source account to the other source account.
Yeah. And one final thing to say on the source account thing, because somebody brought it up, if it is something that came from the bank feed, so if it has a green box on the right side, it will not allow you to change source account because QuickBooks is like, no, why would you be able to move something that we know for sure came from the bank feed? So it will not do that. If you have something like that, you'd have to delete them in order to make things work.
That's a great point. At some point, maybe we can somehow develop a feature where we can unlink it from bank feeds. But for now, because of that link, we just don't have it. Just QuickBooks doesn't let you change it, basically.
Yeah.
So last thing that's worth noting is all these other features. So we talked about changing the account, changing the payee. When it comes to the memo, you can either prepend or append something to it. So if you want to add something to the current memo or prepend something to the current memo, you can do that. So for example, if I go to prepend and click on close, and then I add, edited by Hector. I like doing those hashtags just because they're easier to read. And then I go to confirm batch. You're going to notice that all these transactions, all these memos now have edited by Hector prepended. So you can either prepend or you can append. You can do both. And another nifty little feature here is, let's say, for example, you imported a bunch of transactions. For whatever reason, you imported them with the wrong year. So you enter them by hand, and then you put the wrong year. So, for example, 2026 comes along, and then we forget that these transactions are for 2025, and we start just boom, 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 entering a bunch of things. And then we can just click on date, and instead of changing it to a specific date, we click on change year only. And then here, it really doesn't matter what you put in here in front. If I change all of these to, let's say, 2027, and again, doesn't matter what date I put at the beginning because I said year only, just as long as it's got a year change, and I click confirm batch, I'll go in there, and one by one, it'll change all those transactions. Will change just the year. Again, it won't change the date and the number. Perfect. Okay, so that covers the biggest features. I would say by far probably the most popular of the pro features. If you're not a pro user, this is most likely your gateway drug into pro. You look at this and you go, okay, I absolutely need this, right? And if you are RightTool Pro Lite user, remember, you can only turn on one of these at a time, right? So you can only bulk create, and then have to turn that off and turn on bulk delete, and then turn that off and turn on bulk edit. It's the Pro Plus users, the ones that can turn unlimited things at the same time. So keep that in mind. So let's talk about batch delete recurrent transactions. This one is super simple, exactly as it says. When you have a bunch of recurrent transactions that shouldn't exist anymore, you enter them by mistake, whatever happens to be. This is not a good example because there's only 2 of them, but in either case, this is where it will work. So I'm going to go into settings, and I'm going to turn on the recurrent transactions here, batch delete and recurrent transactions. I'll go ahead and turn on batch delete in search as well, just so we can cover both of these batch deletes kind of at the same time. So batch delete and the current transactions, we'll save that, go back into QuickBooks. When you go into the recurrent transaction screen, you should see a little batch button here in the top, kind of small, but it's right there. There's the batch button. We'll click on that. And then we can either select one by one. We can shift select. Imagine you have a whole bunch more. Let me just duplicate a couple here. Just going to duplicate some so we have a little bit more to delete, so we get a little bit more satisfaction from deleting transactions. So we click on batch. There's a select all button here. We can click on select all or select one by one, then click on batch delete. Now we're adding more features inside this batch delete to do batch changes on already pre-created templates. So right now we have batch change on invoices, where we should be able to add other things like batch changing classes on bills and that sort of thing. For the time being, the only thing that matters, particularly for the exam, is the fact that you can batch delete. So we're going to click on batch delete, click OK. 1, 2, 3, gone, all except for the one that I had selected. Pretty straightforward, works really well. Mark, do you have anything to add on this? Any caveats?
No, I don't think so. Not on that.
Okay. So let's talk about batch delete in search. So once you have that turned on and you go into the QuickBooks search, which you can do by clicking on the search button, searching for something, or clicking on where it says advanced search transactions. You can also, in the RightTool search, you can type a dollar amount, press enter, and it'll take you into the search screen. So sort of multiple ways to get into search. But for whatever reason, let's say I'm in the search screen and I want to delete a bunch of transactions that are in the search screen. Okay. Now I can use all the filtering mechanisms that I have. So for example, I want to use a particular contact, or I want to do a particular, let's say, for example, let's do amounts less than 1,000 or 10,000, whatever it is. So you can use all the filtering mechanisms that QuickBooks has. Okay, let's just do greater than 0. It might be easier to do it this way. So we got a bunch of transactions here that I want to batch delete. So I click on batch delete and void. Now, one thing that's unique about this tool, and we're developing this a little bit different, is we have a little bit of a movable box on a pop-up. We're going to be moving most of the development into this modified way with the pop-up. Some of them are still on the old screen, but it's actually pretty neat because you can actually move it out of the way, kind of look at some stuff. And then from here, we can select the transactions that we want to delete. So for example, let's say all these transactions need to be deleted. I can shift click or click whatever I want. I can click on delete selected, click OK, and then it starts getting rid of the transactions. Now, one of the major drawbacks with using this tool, and by the way, if the transaction cannot be deleted because it has maybe a matching payment, or it has some sort of connection with another transaction where QuickBooks wouldn't let you delete otherwise, you will get an error. Now, unfortunately, we don't tell you why it can't be deleted. We just say, hey, we just couldn't delete it. Sometimes you can try again, and then maybe it kind of just failed. But if you try again, it doesn't do it. That means that for XYZ reason, QuickBooks won't let you delete this. And maybe it has a closing date and it's prior to the closing date. There could be multiple reasons why you can't delete something. Now, if you can't delete it, one of the options that you have is you can void it. Now, voiding them means grabbing the transaction and changing all the amounts to 0. Okay. In some cases, it's an actual void, but in other cases, we actually have to go in there and change the dollars to 0. So if you click on void selected and click OK, it'll go into each transaction, assuming it does. And then these transactions could have something funky in them that doesn't let you do it. Let me take a look at it to see if maybe we can. Oh, these are payments. Okay. So you can't delete payments at the moment. We don't have the workflow to do that. We're only deleting natural transactions just because payments can be linked to a bank. It could be linked to a deposit, and that's just not gonna work. So this is a good example. This is linked to a deposit. You can't delete a payment until you delete the deposit or remove the payment from the deposit. So it's a good example of stuff that QuickBooks won't let you delete. Now we can, select the transaction type and just select invoices or something like that. So we can pick only transactions that are editable. So like this one, for example, let me see if I can show a little bit more, show a whole bunch of invoices here. Then I'm going to go back into batch delete or void. Maybe I'll grab a couple of these invoices and I just want to void them in batch. Click on void selected. RightTool is going to go into each transaction, void, either do a formal void or change it to 0 and add a little memo in there that it was voided. Okay. And if there's a failure on it for XYZ reasons, so for example, this one that says Gita, let me X out of that. And let's look at that one. There could be a different reason why this can be avoided. Maybe there's let me look at the actual transaction. Remember the dollar amount was at this is the 582. Let's go look at it. The QuickBooks won't let you void it for whatever reason. Let's see if there's an explanation as to why we can't void this. Interesting. There's no payment.
Got more actions. Can you avoid an estimate in general? Yeah, I think that's what it is. You just can't void an estimate because
you can't void an estimate. Okay, yeah, so good.
So we can't void anything that's not voidable. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, let's see. Let's look at this other invoice that we couldn't void. Let's go a bunch of actions. Okay, so it's probably because it's tied to an estimate. So like one of the things that QuickBooks doesn't let you do usually, or gives you an error in, is to avoid something that has maybe a billable expense attached to it or an estimate attached to it, and that's the reason why. And it's just kind of a challenge. And QuickBooks hasn't fixed the situation where you can actually avoid a transaction that has a linkage to it. So it's just kind of a QuickBooks limitation at the bottom. So again, we can't do magic. If QuickBooks doesn't let you do it, we won't be able to do it. But at least you'll know which ones you can do it. We just won't tell you why, because we actually don't get a formal error message. It just doesn't let us, and then we go to the next one. Okay, so that was batch delete. That was zoom in here. That was batch delete in search. So the last piece that I'll cover, and then I'll let Mark cover kind of the second half, is batch edit inside reports. This one's actually an extensive feature, and we could probably do a whole 2-hour webinar on this. So we're going to cover some of these only, okay? Just because we have built a lot of functionality in this tool. So I'm just going to go to the homepage for a second, just to kind of reset here. There are multiple ways to access this feature called batch edit inside reports. One of them is to click on the create button in RightTool, in the right toolbar. And generally, let me see if I have this turned on first. So batch edit inside reports right here. So batch edit inside reports, turn that on first. We'll go back into QuickBooks here. And so again, one of the ways to access it, and I think probably the best way to access it, is to click on the new button or the create button in the RightTool menu. Only on the RightTool menu side, you see a button here that says RightTool batch edit. And when you click on that, you're going to get a pop-up window, again, similar to the last one that we talked about, that gives me a list of all the things that we can edit in batch from a report, and the link to that specific report with the specific filters that we need in order for RightTool to know that we're going to be doing batch editing on that particular area. So you have to open up this pop-up menu first to know which report you're going to go. And then there's a search screen at the top here. If you want to look for class, you can see all the things that we can change in class. So we can change class on time entries. We can change class on line items in transactions. We can change class or location on tag transactions. We can change class on the product and service list. So this is the default class. It's an example, okay? So if you would look for, let's say, location, then there's all the things you can do with location. If you type item, okay, so these are all the things where, line items, the word item is in there. If you type maybe account, all the things that have the word account in it. If you write custom for like custom fields or something like that, then all the type of custom fields we can change. So you can use the filtering mechanism to kind of see that. The other place that we did that is just because we have to do it kind of report by report, is inside of the information area where it kind of explains what the feature is. There's also a Google Sheet. And basically what we did is we ported over the Google Sheet into that pop-up. And at some point you might not need the Google Sheet at all, but this is kind of how we started. We added them in the Google Sheets, and then you can click directly in the report from the Google Sheets. That's another sort of pathway into each of the reports that you can do the batch editing from. However, I kind of like this pop-up menu just because it's right there. I don't have to go somewhere else to find what I'm looking for. So let's start with one that's very, very useful, which is adding a 1099 checkbox to a vendor contact list.
And actually, do you want me to share this one? Because I did update my version. Just to be clear to anybody watching the next thing, this is currently broken in 37.5, but 37.6 will go out tonight to fix this issue.
Yeah, no, it's fine because it works up to the point that kind of illustrates the point, so it's fine.
No,
so we'll click on vendor contact list on that little link that's there. It will open up the vendor contact list. We know that if you use that link, we can batch edit into it. So for example, let's say we have a whole bunch of vendors that we want to mark 1099. So we'll go to batch edit, click on track 1099, click on next. And then, you could have pre-filter. So you can go to customize, and I don't remember 100% if that's filterable. So it's not filterable, but I know it is a column that you can show. So So if we go to batch edit, one thing that we probably should be adding in the future, this won't be in the test, is the ability for us to sort through here or filter and only show you the ones that are no's. But for example, the ones that are no's, we'll select on these, and let's say I want to change, like go into each vendor and change it to make it 1099. So we can go to run batch, and it will go one by one and edit. And I'll just illustrate what essentially happens is if you go to this process, it opens up in the backend, it opens up the vendor, it edits it, it goes down into this little checkbox. And where is that checkbox? And clicks on this little checkbox for you and makes it track 1099. In the future, at some point, this won't be in the exam. We'll probably do to swap it, so you can unmark it 1099 instead of marking it 1099. This is only for USA where we do 1099s. We've had some people from Canada tell us, hey, we have something similar. Could you help us with that? We just have to log into a Canadian account and do that. But for the test, for the time being, the context here is going to be 1099s only. But for the Canadian folks, we will, if you get a hold of us, we'll log into your account, take a look at it, see what the field looks like. We just don't have any Canadian accounts that we can play with, and we can figure out what the process is for Canadian accounts as well. Okay. All right. So another one that's really, really useful is changing a custom field inside of a vendor or inside of a customer. Now, for that to work, we actually have to have custom fields set up in QuickBooks. So I'm going to create a couple of custom fields here. So I'm going to create a new custom field called vendor type. So I'm just going to make this up, vendor type. And we're going to do a vendor level custom field, and we're going to make this a drop-down list. And let's say we have commercial contractors, admin expenses, and online, whatever, right? So let's say we track vendor types by these categories, and then we'll click on save. So now we create a custom field for a vendor. Also, let me do a custom field for a transaction. So let's say I want to add a sales rep, and we'll add a drop-down list, and we'll have Mark and Hector, and let's say Patrick. Okay, these are the three amigos that run a RightTool here. And then we'll make this a transaction level custom field. Let's say we limit it only to sales transactions. So invoices, estimates, sales receipts, whatever, right? So now we have the custom fields created. So QuickBooks has the custom fields. That means we can now use the feature to add custom fields in batch. So we'll go here to the feature where we can do the batch edit. Let's go to vendor contact list. Now in the report, generally, I just don't remember this by heart, is, could I bring in that custom field, that vendor type? Yes, I can. So I'll turn that on so we can see it on the report. It should all be blank because we just created that custom field. And let's say I want to batch add that custom field. I go to batch edit, click on vendor type, then click on next. And then let's say I'm going to do a couple of them in group. And these are going to be my commercial contractors. Go to run batch. Let those run through. So it takes a little longer because custom fields are harder to access than the other stuff. Okay. And let's say I go to batch edit, vendor type. I'm going to do the other ones. Select these here. Make these my admin expenses. Click on run. And again, I batch edited the custom field of a vendor, the one that's saved in the vendor profile. These are not the transactions. This works the same for customers. So if we do this for customers, we can do this as well. So if you have custom fields that are native to customers. Now, it's a little bit different than custom fields that are native to transactions. So let's go back to the batch editing menu. And then let's look at, I'll type here custom fields. And then we'll look at change custom fields in transactions. So for example, this report is going to be a lot different. And again, we customize the report. So it's the same report that will work contextually or work with the transactions that we're going to do. So let's say, for example, I want to change the custom fields only on invoices. So I'm going to start by filtering and showing only invoices. So let's do a transaction type filter and show invoices only. Gotta love QuickBooks's custom reporting features. They're really awesome. So here are all my invoices, okay? And they're all shown here. If I try to show the field for that sales rep, which I added as a custom field, it should show as a blank, right? Because we just created a custom field. None of these transactions have sales rep in it. So let's say, for example, I want to add sales rep to a bunch of these transactions. Maybe I filter by customer, by amount, by class, by memo, whatever filtering you want to use. You can use all the built-in QuickBooks filtering mechanism. This is why it's very, very powerful to do the batch editing from the reports, because you take advantage of the entire filtering system that QuickBooks gives you. Then we click on batch edit, and then we select the custom field that we want to change. Go to next, and then we select all the transactions that are supposed to be for that particular sales rep. And we mark the sales rep, click on run batch. It'll go into transaction by transaction and change the custom field inside the individual transactions. Just to be clear, we're not changing it in the vendor name or in the customer name. We're going into each individual transaction and doing that. So if you want to show a transaction list by custom field, so you can see your sales by rep or whatever, then you can do that because you went back and changed that. We added this when QuickBooks killed or started killing tags. Because people, tags were very useful and tags are not available for new customers anymore. So you had to move things to custom fields. So this was, a solution that we had for custom fields. So now let's say we want to mark the other invoices with a different rep name, and you can also batch edit them. So if you have one that's got the wrong one, you can batch edit that too. So it's not just batch adding into blank ones. You can batch edit the ones that are already in there. So it's just batch editing in general. Okay. Anything to add on this, Mark? I think I should do one more example, but anything to add on this?
I think that you have pretty much the gist of it down, and the only thing I can really say is that there's just a lot of flexibility here. And so if you do need something specifically as well, just reach out to us, because we're constantly kind of adding stuff to here for people who need very specific changes.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
like we had one particular client that wanted to, based on the tag that it had, use the tag information to then move the data into class or locations. It's a great example here, right? Where you run a report that's transaction list by tag group, and then based on the tags that you have, then you can filter by that tag and then change the class or location. There's also all sorts of flexibility there. One of the I would say the most popular ones is anything to do with the customer or project. Okay, so this one's called change customer projects on line item in transactions. Now, this one used to be available via direct hyperlink on the reclassify screen. That's not available anymore there, right? We have to go through this process. You remember? But anyway.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but this is the official place where we can do batch editing through this tool. So we're going to click on the RightTool line batch report, click on that. So what this is going to show you is going to show you a bunch of expense transactions. And let's just do all reports here, all dates here. And this could be, these are, in this particular case, these are transactions that are missing a customer job. So if I open up one of these in a new tab here, just so we don't lose the report here, you will notice that this is a bill. And let me just expand this a little bit. There's a bill that has nothing under customer project. And what we want to do is we want to go back and add the customer or the project in batch for a bunch of transactions. Okay. So then we run all the filtering mechanisms that we want to run through here before we batch add them. Then we click on batch. Remember, there's already some filters we have already, like we specifically said expense transactions. Okay. And then we've did it by missing customer job. So we started with missing customer job, so you can batch add to transactions that are missing the customer job. But let's say, for example, you coded something wrong. So let's say you coded something to the wrong customer and you want to pick the customer that you coded wrong in this particular case. So let's say we coded to one of these customers and click on run report. In this case, there's no transactions for those, but that's essentially the concept. But if you pick the not specified, it will show you the ones that are missing customer job, that's why we created that as a starting point. Okay. Then we click on batch, and then we select all the transactions that we want to add the customer job into. Keep in mind that this is the line item of the transaction. So if you have a transaction with multiple line items, you might see literally multiple line items for the same transaction. You select the customer job you want to bring in here. So there's a customer and the project, click on run batch, and I'll go into each of those transactions and add the customer job for those. So again, you have to start with this report, run all the filters on the reports. And then once you go into any of these transactions, I'll open up. I don't remember if we use this first one. Let me just go back and include that first one here. The first one that shows up in the report, this PG&E one. Let's go to batch. Make sure I select that one. Was that 114? Yep. There's a little bug in it now that it's not showing the vendor name, but that's something that we're going to fix. So I'm going to click on run batch and just do it for that one. And then I'll go back and look at that transaction that I just did. And there it is. It added the customer job for me. So that's the magic of that feature, that you can batch add a bunch of customer jobs at the same time. Mark, anything else to add before you take over the screen?
One thing I just want to see, since somebody did ask, if you press the batch button again, and if you remove, oh, we have it, we have this filtered so you can't see the ones that we've edited. Okay, that's kind of one thing somebody was asking is, could you
So
remove customers from
I'll
the
talk
one?
about the filter really quick. So remember, I run a filter that only shows when customer jobs are not specified. So basically, the minute we specify the customer job, it automatically just removes from the list, because QuickBooks auto refreshes the report and gets rid of that. But if I click on specified, it's a totally different filter. It'll show me all the transactions that have a customer job related to it. And then maybe I chose the wrong customer job, and I want to, like, you have all these transactions that have let's say, quote, the wrong customer job. I go to batch, select those, and then change it to the quote right customer job. So let's say that one, click on run batch. So you are either adding a customer job to transactions that are missing customer jobs, or we're just editing the current customer job.
And I think what I was kind of getting at is, can you actually make it? And I don't remember if I did this or not, so that's why I was wondering, is can you change it so it removes a customer slash from the line of a project altogether?
We
If
don't
you leave
have
it blank.
Yeah, we don't have the mechanism for that, but I'm just gonna
Yeah.
try it here, because I don't think blank is an option. Let's say if I keep a blank, click on run batch. Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's just double check on that, because I actually never tried it. So
Yeah.
let's see if it does do it.
Huh? I
Oh,
guess it
all right.
does.
It does it. So I removed it from the list because we have them as specified. So now we go. So it's not super intuitive, but as long as you delete it and then click on batch edit, it'll go back and clear them out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm stopping sharing, and then you have the slides too. So you open up the slides just so
Yes.
you can kind of preface what we're going to cover now.
Yeah. So Hector covered the first part, and honest to God, the
Share
more
share your screen. Yeah, there you go.
yeah. So Hector covered this part right here, and the stuff that's a little bit more of the mainstream used features of batching. But we also have things in here that tend to be a little bit more niche use case. Well, exception of one of them. Uh, and I'm going to go over these now. So the first thing we're going to go over is the inventory quantity adjustment enhancements. So I'm just going to go over into RightTool options, into Batch Pro. And inside of here, I just want to make absolutely sure that I have the setting turned on right here called Inventory Quantity Adjustment Enhancements. And now I'm just going to go into QuickBooks, and you can find this page by going to this plus icon, and on the right side here, there's Inventory Quantity Adjustment. Now, you'll notice inside of here that there's going to be some red text popping up over top of the grid over here that says add all active items, make all zero, add active negatives, and add active non-zero items. One thing I want to point out before we get into this is a feature to help with inventory, but if you have a large inventory that you need to work with, like if you have more than like 500 items, this might not work super well for you in that case. This is more for people who have inventory, but it's not like the major functionality of their business. So what that means is, let's say I just want to start off with add all active items. I'm just going to click on that button and it'll take just a moment because it has to kind of get all the details. And then once I'm done, you have to wait just a little extra bit longer. You'll notice the quantity on hand has like a really large negative number. That's just because that's what we fill in until we can come in here and actually edit these manually in QuickBooks. And you'll see now all the items get put in. So instead of you having to go one by one to put them all in, it just does it for you. Now, alternatively, we can say make all of these zero. This is something that's very helpful if you're kind of just needing to reset all of the inventory. You can say make all zero, and a lot of these were zero already, admittedly. But you can see here it'll do the calculation here to change the quantity. Or you could be like, hey, I want to add only the negative items. And you can see here once I do that, it'll add only the four things that we had like a negative quantity on hand. Uh, And then finally, we can have add active non-zero items, which is just similar to the negatives, except for now it's anything that's just not zero. Um, and then as far as that is concerned, we can't do anything about the actual products or services themselves from here. We can't edit them from here. This is only about changing the quantity itself. But once you are done, let's say we want to make all of these zero, you can click save. And you'll have a nice little inventory adjustment done for you that'll pop up on the screen showing you what all you've done. So just something that's really helpful. Again, if you have somewhere between 1 to 500 items, if you have more than that, you might have to use a separate software in order to really get the most out of it. Um, so just something to be aware of there. The next thing is batch changing the product slash service accounts. So what does that mean? First of all, we're going to go to options, and inside of here, we want to make sure we find this feature. So this is batch change product slash service accounts. When you are inside of the items page, generally speaking, one by one, you can go into a transaction, or not transaction, a product. And if you want to change like an income account or something like that, you can do that. And you have to click on this, also update this account in historical transactions, and then press save and close. And you would have to do that one at a time every single time. Um, what this feature does is it'll add a red button here that says batch change accounts. And I'm just going to click on that. And I actually have to select accounts first that I want to batch edit. So let's just select some of these. And to be fair, we can only do this on accounts where you could naturally edit this and change the account historically. I forget off the top of my head which ones can't do that. I think Hector knows, but we'll let
I
him
know.
get to that in a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. So if it's an inventory item, it does it automatically. If like you don't get a choice.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
If it's a service or non-inventory item, then you get the choice.
Okay. Gotcha. I appreciate that. So yeah, what happens is once you come into this area right here, you'll have a area for sales account. So I could be like, oh, I want this to be, channel sales for sub channel. Um, And I also want to say I can change this to historically. You can choose whether or not you want to change historically or just change it going forward by checking this checkbox. And then anything you leave blank, it's not going to do anything at all. So just be aware. It does not remove it. It just is saying, hey, I don't want to change the purchase account. I'm going to leave this blank. So just to show that, I'm going to click Run Batch Account Change, and I'm going to just do that.
One thing
Now,
one thing is important to add. People ask this all the time. is we can't choose the period for historical change. QuickBooks doesn't give you the ability for that. So you either change it forever or don't change it at all. Okay, we just
Yes.
can't pick a particular period. We have a different feature in the batch edit, uh, in the RightTool batch edit by reports,
Yes.
which we covered separately, which is change the account in a product or service.
Or yeah, change
Uh,
the account.
yeah, you can do that, and then you can pick the period that you want to change. They say you only want to do last year, or only want to do this year, whatever it is. Filter by that product or service, and then just change it on the so you won't change it on the item itself. You'll change it
Yeah.
only on the transaction. You change the account, only the transaction. So the point of what Mark is showing, well, this one is to change it on the transactions, but
Yeah.
what Mark was showing earlier is to change it in this page, in the products and services page, with the option to edit. Now, if QuickBooks has a close period and any transactions are fall in that close period, the historical change won't work. It'll give you an error and it won't do
Yeah.
anything. Like it won't do
Yeah.
it up to the close period. It just won't do anything at all.
Yeah, that is a very important thing. Is one thing I was going to mention is yes, it if it is in a closed period, it will just completely not change anything at all about the account. So be aware of that. If you have closed periods and you don't want to remove them, then you might have to. And also, if you want to just change it from a specific period onwards, that's where Hector was referring earlier to the batch edit from reports feature inside of here, you can filter this and be like, I want to change the lines one by one. We can't do just a blanket thing if you have a closed period. So yes, very important to note on that. Yeah. So yeah. The next thing is reallocate from reports via journal entries. Now, admittedly, we could probably rename this feature. But what this is inside of RightTool, if you go to a profit and loss by class, and you have to go to the uh, classic version of a report. Now, admittedly, this
Yeah,
page
you
is being
actually
done.
you actually have to go to a different QuickBooks file because the one that you have here is a beta version of the report screen.
Oh, really? Okay, I did not know that actually.
Yeah, it's the new one that's coming in it's actually supposed to be coming in December. But that's a different conversation. But they enabled it for our file so we can test it. So something,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Makes sense. I was like, how this is different. It's a little bit, I haven't seen that one before. Uh, so I was a little bit confused for a minute there, which means I can close out all that other stuff, but that's okay. So I am going to, just to kind of speed up the way that we get to this thing, I'm going to go to standard reports. And yeah, now we're in here. And I'm going to type this by class and hope that it actually selected the right thing. There we go. And here we go.
So again, this is currently only working in the classic version of
Yes.
the P&L by class.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Um,
work on a balance sheet by class, right? Only P&L by class.
Only P&L by class for
Yeah.
this one. To be clear, this will work inside of class, location, or customer. So customer slash project. I know somebody asked about project earlier. But you have to basically have the report filtered or to display by one of those three things. So either classes, locations, or customers. If you're going to do this by customer, I do recommend just before you get started that you filter first, because more than likely you have enough customers inside of your QuickBooks file that it will be slow as can be if you try to display columns by customers. But for the sake of this, we're just going to use classes. Once you go to a classic profit and loss by class report, there will be a button here that says reallocate. You'll notice a little thing pops up really quickly. That's just us getting some data. And then this page right here will pop up. This has, by default, and let me actually kind of show the report itself. By default, we will have the not specified column be what shows up when you click on reallocate. So here are all the numbers inside the not specified column. So that's where we're going to reallocate from. However, if you're like, actually, we have an administrative, when we have an administrative account, you could also select that as well. And it will be able to choose that. Of course, it wants to fight me today, and we're going to accept that for what it is. But you should be able to select a feature or a specific column from right there and then have it be pushed out that way. And then from here, if you want to reallocate everything, everything is already selected by default, or you can select only specific things or exclude certain things. So let's say I don't want to move cost of goods sold out of the not specified column for some reason, and I only want to move out $2,000 of this sales of product income. And then I'm going to click next. And then inside of here, you'll get a little section that lets you put in percentages for how you want to reallocate this out. So I'm just going to, I can type in this is 32, this is 18, and then 25 and 25, let's say. And so when I'm done with that, it will show at the bottom right here what the total percentage you have currently allocated out, as well as the number of journal entry lines this is going to make for you. This is a relatively small report, so it's not going to be a ton of lines, but you can see here, even just this small report, it's 20. So I'm going to click copy to clipboard and press OK at the top. And once I'm inside of here, it will open up the journal entry page where we will have another feature that we will talk about relatively soon for Paste Excel, which is where we can kind of put in this entire journal entry, and it'll be ready for us to paste into here. And it will give you all of the debits and credits correct, as well as putting descriptions in so that you have something that's more auditable, so you can have a trail of what you did and why. Will be showing up in the description. And you can see here that the classes are the way that the classes are. If you are somebody who has a set percentage that you like to allocate out and you don't want to have to type in this percentage every single time, you can click on this button at the top that says export percent CSV. And then now I'm going to just go back and we're going to just press next again. Next time I come into here, I can choose to import from a file, and I can just use that file I exported before, and it will automatically fill in the percentages for the correct classes and everything. So you don't have to constantly redo the percentages if you have a set that you like to do. Um, Other things that we have inside of here, assuming that we have any good data for this to show what we're going to do, which is looking less and less likely, is we have a button down here where if you're like, I want to split this across classes, um, and I want to split it across classes proportionally based on the percentage of income that that class has, you can click on this button to say split proportionally. This is a bad example because we only have one thing that has any income in it. Um, but you can see here, if I split proportionally, it puts the percentages based on total income for the class, which can be really helpful if you're trying to make it so the reporting stays in the correct proportions. We also have other buttons here, like resetting to make it so you can get all the way back to zero. So again, just super helpful if you have like lots of classes you're dealing with, nonprofits, and especially are people who like to do this on a regular occurrence. So it can be really helpful for that.
I
Uh,
want to add one thing that's really important. So number one, if one of your classes is not shown on the report, so for example, Mark, if you want to do it, create a class number 3, like go into
okay.
classes and create class number 3.
Yeah. Let's can I do it from up here? Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
And open link in a new tab.
Which we might already have it there. Just guessing that maybe we don't.
I'm sure we don't. QuickBooks. The servers must be near Florida today because they seem to be working better for you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So let's
Do
hit.
class. You can do class number 3.
That's number three.
Yeah.
I'll
And
put
then
it even then.
if you go back into the report, and you refresh, class
I
number
think it
three,
should be
it's
fine.
not showing, right?
Yeah.
So because it's not showing on the report, it won't give you the option to reclassify to it.
Let me
So
refresh the page just to make absolutely sure about that. But
yeah, I
yes, you
just
might be
want,
right.
yeah, there's a couple tricks you can do to that. One, you can do a journal entry into it for zero with $0 amount, just so something shows up.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you can do, just so we can show it because it needs to show on the screen for it to show in the next. So if you have classes that are totally empty, the other thing is if you go back for a second, yeah, you won't see it, Mark.
Okay, so yeah, class number three shows up in the percentage area.
How how if it wasn't shown in the report?
Because it technically this is where some of the behind the scenes magic is. It's
Okay,
looking
okay.
in this filter area right here.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, so we did add that. Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to add um to go to where it says show non-zero active only.
Oh yeah. Do you mean like here or do you want to
No,
show?
no, on the QuickBooks filter.
Okay, gotcha. Uh, oh, right here.
Yeah. So you can do all on columns. If you do all on columns,
Oh, all in columns.
on columns. Yeah. If you do all on
Yeah.
columns, click on row. Um, it will force add that class in there. So just kind of keep in mind, like if you want to preview it, even with a missing class or location or customer job, whatever it is, you can do that. Show all. Same thing with accounts. Show all. That way you see everything that you want to see prior to doing the allocation.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, again, just to kind of put it out there, we can do this for class, location, or customer, but you can only do one at a time. So if you want to do something where you're adding a class and a customer or a class and a location at the same time, you will just have to, after you're done reallocating, I'll just kind of do this very quickly. You can export this to a CSV. And then if you do that, you can edit that to try and add in the customer and or the location, whatever you need to do. So you can edit this inside of here if you need to whatever you want to have done. But it does require a little bit of manual effort if you're trying to do two at the same time. So
If you want to edit both without doing two separate journal entries.
yes, exactly.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
other thing is, and this is kind of a prelude to the next feature you're going to talk about, is that we're not editing any transactions in the period. We're just creating a journal entry,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So if you make a change to the transact, if you add any new transactions to that report, the report's going to look different again. So hopefully you're doing this, and immediately after doing this, you're locking in your P&L by class or whatever with all the allocations. Then you close the period. That's typically, you know, the step right before closing your period.
Yeah. And also make sure when you do the journal entry that you select the correct journal date because I can't tell you how many times I've been caught by that. Uh, so just be aware. You need to make sure your journal entry is actually pasted into the right date as well.
Right. We'll create the journal entry with today's date, but if you want to backdate it, you know, make sure you do that.
Yeah. So yeah, the next thing is batch entering timesheets.
I would recommend flipping the order of that. Just do reallocate in expenses, just because they're sort of very similar to what we just did.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So this is going to be a thing where if you go into an expense transaction, and let me just go ahead and go over into here. So we have, is this in Batch Pro? Reallocate an expense page.
Yeah.
So right here, if I go into an expense, and let's see if we can find one that already exists or not. Let's try this one. Yeah, we'll let it be fine for now, even though I don't love the fact that that's deleted. So I'm going to click on, once you're inside of an expense, you can click on reallocate. And it'll take just a second before it pops up this window. And actually, one more thing I'm going to do just to kind of prove the point here is a second line and then 500 and that. And yeah, we're going to do that. So, um, yeah, and when I click on reallocate, it's going to come up to here, and every line that's currently showing in the category section of the expense is going to be selectable right here. So you can select to only reallocate on a single line. Uh, so like right here, I'm going to click. this, or I could select both of these. And at the bottom right, there's a thing that says reallocate by class, or you can reallocate by customer slash project. So I'm just going to click on class for this one. And I'm going to say, okay, I want these to go, 33% into this, 33% into this, and then 34% into this. Uh, and click on reallocate. And uh, yeah, and then once I'm done, you'll see here it will automatically take that line, those two lines that previously existed. It's going to chop those up basically and reallocate them over across these. So you can see here the 33% are right here, and then the 34% is right there. Uh, so that is what is going on in this particular feature. Can be again really helpful if you if you have a specific transaction or set of transactions. The report one we just showed, that one is more for if you are reallocating a large swath of things and you're fine with doing it with a journal entry. Whereas this one is more about being able to fix it on the line details, which is usually better, but you have to, it takes more time to do it on a line by line basis. Um, One final thing to kind of just mention here, and I'm just going to put this right here, um, is that unlike the other one where you could export the CSV for the percentages up at the top left, don't ask me why I did it this way. You can export this CSV right here, and it will make it so next time you come in, you can actually choose a file to import the percentages if that's something you want to do for your own sake. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, and you can see here, you could kind of do this uh, nonstop until eventually everything's just $1 reallocated out. So yeah, that is and I appreciate you changing that around for me there, Hector, the reallocate and expense. The next thing is going to be batch entering timesheets. Now, Hector, did you have anything to say on the reallocate and expense? Or are we good on that?
No, that's good. That's perfect. The only thing is that's gonna be only for bills, expenses, checks, credit cards. That we don't do anything on the income side. So there's no reallocating inside of an invoice or anything like that.
That's a good point. And also, Lisa mentioned that having it commented in the description would be great as well, which is a fair point. That's something we should definitely think about. Um, so yeah, next thing is going to be batch entering timesheets. So this is going to be kind of similar to bulk entering from the register, but it's going to be just a little different.
Now, did you
So
did you have it set up for this file or for the other file?
that is a great point. I have this set up for the Hector Garcia Corp, so I'll just go back over into that. And it's good because it can show you where to go anyway. So while I'm showing this, you can find this feature in Batch Pro again, and it's going to be near the bottom here, called Batch Enter Timesheets. And I'm just going to come over here and hope this page loads sometime today. Hector, I'm jealous of you. Your QuickBooks seems to be running faster today than mine does.
I also have a Mac, so
I choose to believe that that is not the problem, although it could be. Let's be clear. My computer might be like, yeah, you're doing too much right now, which is perfectly fine.
Mark and I have this PC versus Mac thing going on.
And I appreciate that. Uh, so I'm going to go to, for this feature, you just go to the weekly timesheet. You can find that inside of the create area, either on the left side or on the right tool sidebar. And I'm going to go to weekly timesheet. And depending on what version of QuickBooks you are using on, because there are multiple versions of this page, you'll see a paste from Excel button at the top here. There should, or if you have a different version, there'll still be a paste from Excel, uh, but it just might be kind of in a different spot, but it should still be near the top. So inside here, I'm going to click paste from Excel. Now, this one you'll notice is a lot larger than the batch enter from the register because there's just so much more you can potentially enter in inside of QuickBooks or inside of QuickBooks for a timesheet. So my suggestion is for the first time you do this is you click on this button right here that says export all list data. Again, that'll give you a nice little template as well as some uh, guardrails as to what you can actually type into each of these things. So I'm going to open that up
And
and you
that
can see,
and that's gonna vary file by file because some files
yes,
you won't have, you know, one thing turned on, another thing turned on. So it's only,
yes.
you know, if you don't have tax turned on, if you don't have cost rate turned on, billable expenses. So whatever you have turned on is the template that will work for that file based on what fields are available.
Yeah, exactly. So you probably will need to do this on a client by client basis if you're having multiple you're going to do this for. Um, I went ahead and made a sheet for this that is a little bit more, what's the word, put together, so that we can work on that. So I'm just going to bring that Excel over into here. So yeah, let's say that you come in here, you've kind of put everything in. I like to put in that Hector's billable rate is only $105, where his wife is $2,000.
Sounds about
Um,
right.
yeah. Now, to be fair for this, I have billable turned off because of the fact that you have to have like specific items or like the specific type of item that you have can be billable or not. But that shouldn't be something that affects you if you're doing this in a non-demo capacity. Um, so we have the billable currently turned off for all of these lines. But once you have everything put in, and you can just come over here and you can copy all the lines of this transaction. Um, yeah, and as Lisa said, the location might not work on this because of the fact that this is a demo file. But once you have everything in here and everything is green, you click on paste into QuickBooks and it will go through and create the time tracking thing for you. And it will also open up a second window that's going to have the report showing essentially the time period that you had activated when you put in the post for these times. And then for whatever reason, it wants to show me only the things that happened on December 7th. And I'm sure there is a great reason for that. Uh,
Or you can just change the time period on the report.
Well, I think that something must have happened that made it so it only wanted to take the things that were on the 7th, but I don't know why it wants to do that. I swear, sometimes the universe just laughs at your attempts to prepare for these things by just completely changing the rules on you. Let's try one thing real quick.
Try all periods in the future. So do like 12/8, just in case there's other things already in there. Not, yeah, you can't. It's not letting you change them or whatever. So do like 12/8 forward, like 12/8 to 12, to the end of the year, or whatever.
Yeah, 12/8/2025. Let's just do that, and then let's see if this will work or if it's going to be like, no.
That's work. That's fine.
I'll accept it. Okay, let's
Well,
try this.
and one thing to add, this is very quirky and like unlike other tools,
Yes.
is that the timesheet that you're staring at the moment, the one that you're looking at, has nothing to do with what you're importing. So it actually doesn't matter which timesheet you're looking at, which employee is selected, which time period. We're actually writing this in each timesheet for the correct period for the correct employee. Notice that we have even multiple employees there. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter which one you're looking at. That's why it opens up a new tab with a report to kind of show you that feedback that it was entered.
Yeah. And again, it's time tracking is definitely one of the quirkier pages of QuickBooks, especially when you're dealing with multiple different people. Um, so it might take a little bit of work to get it to do exactly what you want it to do. Let's see if it's going to work this time or if it's going to. Okay, so it somewhat worked this time. I can appreciate that. Uh, I have to figure out why it was being acting up on the other one that I did. But you can see here, it kind of gives you a report of all of the things that you have put in on here.
And the
Uh,
report includes both things that you just imported and things that were already in there for the same
yes.
period, right? Because it's not a report of recently imported, it's a report of everything that's for that period. So if you want to double check, triple check that, the 40 hours are in there or whatever, that's what the report is for.
Yeah, exactly. And you can type into each of those individually, or you can go into the weekly timesheet for, like, let's say a specific person. In this case, it would be Andrea. So didn't really need to refresh the page to do this, but what are you going to do? Um, it will show you, you can clear it out from inside of here as well. It will show up eventually. Of course, it wants to load incredibly slow.
And again, the input point is from the weekly timesheet screen because that's where we put
Yes.
the button. But it doesn't matter which customer, I mean, which employee you're looking at and which period you're looking at. You can
Yeah,
import and paste regardless.
exactly. So yeah, just something to keep in mind there. Let's see if this will work now. Okay, we're gonna not worry about it because it does show up in the time activities thing.
Yeah, it
I'm
does.
sure it's just the fact that I am forgetting about something or another.
Yeah.
Gotta love timesheets. Um, so yeah, the next thing is probably one of the big favorites for people is copy Excel to transactions. So that is, I'm just going to go into the options here, and there is copy Excel to transactions right here at the very top. So this will work. This was originally designed to work uh, only as a journal entry thing, but then we decided to add this into all different kinds of pages inside of QuickBooks. And so, yeah,
So we'll start with the example of journal entries, and if we have time, we can cover the other transactions as well.
yeah. So I'm going to just open up a journal entry. And while that's loading, I will show this file right here that has just the accounts, the debits, credits, description, name, location, and class. This will change depending on what your file is like. If you don't have location and class, it might not show that. The only important thing is that it needs to fit the same, what's it called? The same schema,
Structure, yeah.
basically. Yeah, the
Yeah.
same structure as what your page looks like when you enter into Excel. So you might have to, if you got something from, let's say, a payroll company that you're trying to import into a journal entry, you might have to do a little bit of editing on the Excel sheet to make it so it fits in here. When I click paste Excel at the very top here, it'll take just a minute to get all the data for the file because we don't store anything. So we have to get it every time we basically run this. And I'm just going to click here and paste into this little box right here. We've already discussed how this general page works, how this little pop-up works. So it's not too much of a new thing here, but you'll see here there's stuff that's in red. That's basically us saying, hey, there is something here that we have no idea what it is. And if we have no idea what it is, we're going to skip it. We're not going to put anything in when we do the journal entry. So you can edit that directly inside of here and then select whatever is the correct thing at the top right, or you can just put in whatever you want to put in. Um, and so, yeah, I can just click on each of these yellow boxes and say, hey, fix this. And we also have these little buttons right here at the top left that are kind of hidden here where it says no exact match or no match. If you click on that, it'll actually rotate and scroll to the next thing in the list that has no match or no exact match. So it can be easier to find those if you have like 1,000 long page or 1,000 line journal entry. It can be really helpful to click on these buttons right here to kind of switch back and forth to things.
Because they need to be all green to make sure that it will be complete.
Yeah.
Because if you have
Now,
anything red or yellow, it's going to miss it and you may have an unbalanced entry or whatever.
yeah, and I'll actually leave this yellow just to show what happens. So everything that was green gets pasted in. And then on here, there is going to be, you can see on line 16 here, the account was left blank because we basically say we would rather get it wrong and have it show as an error when you click save than have it put in the wrong thing and then it'd be hard to discover later on what it was supposed to be. So that's a big part of the reason why we do paste Excel the way that we do on that. So yeah, it can be really helpful. It works really well with a lot of our other features in QuickBooks as well, and that's one of the reasons we like to show that one off. One thing I will show really quick is going to be if I go to an expense page, you'll see inside of here. unlike the journal page where we put paste Excel at the top, inside of expense pages, you will see it underneath each of the detail areas inside of an expense or whatever transaction type you're using. If it has multiple detail types, that is just because of the fact that we can only paste into category details or item details at one given time. So if you have products or services, you'd use items. If you're doing just normal accounts, you'd use the category details. While we're in here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the next thing, which is copy down rows and copy down, as well as find and replace in transactions. So both of those two things can kind of take place in the same area. Again, these work inside of all transaction types. So copy down rows and copy down. So I'm just going to go into this journal entry and you'll see we didn't have a location added here. And I'm like, actually, I want to have a location after everything on the third line. So I'm going to put here location two. And instead of me having to like copy, paste, press enter, or figure this out, instead of having to do that multiple times, I can just click on this little arrow at the top here and then click on location two. And if you leave it at 0, it's just going to fill in until it finds the next not filled in account number. So here you can see here, don't have an account here. So it's going to stop here. But if I wanted to, I could, again, do that, leave it at 0, and it'll go all the way down to basically the bottom of the transaction, uh, copying that value into each of those boxes. And this works on any of these columns. So let's say that I also want name to be copied down. And let's say for this one, I only want to copy it down 5 lines. I can actually type in here how many lines I want it to copy down for. So that way, if you leave it at 0, it's just going to copy down to the bottom of the transaction essentially. If you put in a specific number, it will only fill in that specific set of numbers. So just something that can be really quick and helpful. And then the final thing that was a part of this feature, but is no longer super necessary because QuickBooks has added this to most files, but not all, is we have the little copy button here to also just copy an individual line. Again, that should be added to most files at this point, but not all of them have it yet. So we still keep it in there. And then that leaves us finally with the find and replace and transactions. So you'll see here there is a magnifying glass at the top of this page. I can come over here and click on this. And let's say I want to replace everything in the descriptions. And you know what? Let's just kind of put something in the memo as well. Transaction recorded for 03-9 2024 or something like that. So let's say I want to change this from 03-9, or let's say I have a typo. I can find in here, I can say as of, and I'm going to say 03-9. And I'm going to, or actually, you know what? Let's just do the 03-9 first. And then I'm going to say I want to replace this with 04-12 or something like that. And once I click that, you'll notice inside of each of the descriptions, it will find and replace whatever it is that you search for. So it just makes it really quick and easy to make changes to those if you've ever like copied a transaction from one month to the next just to kind of fill it in. So it can be really helpful for that purpose.
Yeah,
I'm
people all
gonna
the
delete
time
this.
create a journal entry called, adjustment for February, and they duplicate it and they have to go back and change, February for March or whatever. That's a very common thing that people use.
Yeah. And another thing I'm going to put in here, just because it's going to drive me crazy, is I'm going to put in as of, and then I'm going to put in the exact same thing, but with a space. That way we can correct the little error I made here where I put no space between these. So it can be just a really cool feature to go through. And you'll notice that it does do for all of these features with the filter or for the find and replace or the copy down, you'll notice it does go one by one through the lines. So if you have a 2000 line journal entry, just be aware it's going to take a minute to get that all done if you have a really, really large journal entry. So just something to keep in mind there. And with that, I think that's the end of part two of the batch features. Anything else you wanted to add, Hector?
No, that's it. For the benefit of people that are watching live, we'll take live questions and answer those live questions. For the time being, we're going to go to the next section, which is how to get certified. So, you watched 6 hours worth of content, and then now you want to get certified. What is the process going to look like? Now, those are watching live. You are in the sort of beta period. We promise that we will have the full-blown website with all the certification options and little trinkets by December 15th. So you're watching this in the sort of pre-stages, but you should be able to get the process started, give us some feedback if something's broken. We're going to paint you some part of the vision of what we're trying to achieve with this. So we're going to go step by step. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into RightToolPro.com. You have to be in RightToolPro.com. If you are a free user of RightTool and you don't currently have a pro account, you have to create a free account on this website. So if you don't have a free account on this website, you cannot get certified. So the way you create a free account is you're going to go into account and you're going to click on register. Again, if you are a paid user, a pro user, you're just going to log in. You're just going to click on login. But if you don't have an account yet, and you're using the free version, you can continue to use the free version, but you have to log in or create a free account to get certified. So you're going to click on get started, and then you're going to put all your information in there, company name, email, password, and you're going to click on create my account. Once you click on create my account, I'm going to log in with my free account first. Okay. This is what it will look like when you're logged in as a free user of RightTool. You will have something in the top that says, hey, you should probably consider going to pro because that's the ultimate purpose, right? We have a freemium model. We get you into the free version. So you get enamored with RightTool, and then you decide that you want to make the investment and be a pro user because, especially if you're an accounting professional, you've gone through the certification, you've seen all the tools. It should be a no-brainer. But if you're just going to be a free user, which is totally fine, 100%, you should see an area here that says certifications. And when you click on that, you will only see the certified user certification, right? Because the free users can only get certified user. They cannot be a certified expert. And we'll kind of talk about all the benefits of certified expert in a little bit. But then to get certified, you're going to start by clicking on certified user. And by the way, if you're a pro user, you go with 2 steps. First, you become a certified user, and then it enables the certified pro. Okay. Then there's a quick link to the recorded video that's in YouTube. You can click on that. You can maximize.
Welcome everybody to
you can just click on the YouTube link and it'll open up the video in a new tab. So you don't have to watch it in this little tiny window or anything like that. We just added it in there so you kind of have reference to it. It's in YouTube. It's not, not very difficult to find. It's 2 hours. And it only covers the free features. So to become a certified user, you're going to click on take the test, and then you're going to start answering, right? So I'm just going to sort of Christmas tree this, just to kind of see. And at the end, it will give you either a fail or pass. Okay, so I'm just going to go through it so you can see it's a very simple test. Okay, not very sophisticated. We're not using we didn't buy a test taking software. We actually built this from scratch. So it's going to get a little bit prettier. We'll add A, B, C, and D to it, that sort of thing. Like for now, we're just trying to get it to work, right? So we can get some people certified. We'll get more we will get more sophisticated as we will develop this. But just Christmas tree in this thing. At the end, it'll tell you what your score is. You have to have at least an 80% to get certified. Once you get certified, you will see your directory area, which actually I don't think I have access to that yet.
Yeah, we're still getting everything sorted out, to be clear.
But I'll show you that piece. So I'm just going to log out real quick. Now I'm going to log in into my paid account. Okay, so if you're a pro user, it will look slightly different. You're a pro user, when you go into certifications, you're going to see both the certified user and the certified expert. We haven't loaded the exam yet, but we will load it by December 15th. Once you get certified, we will send you an email. Congratulations. We'll send you a little certificate. We're still working on that. And then you'll be able to, you have a license to be using these logos. So if you want to use it in your business cards, in your website, in your email, whatever, if you want to use it to try to get a job, it doesn't really matter. You use the logos in whatever context you want to use it, as long as you're not, pretending to be RightTool or whatever. You're just presenting the fact that you passed the exam. So when you're a pro user, you need to pass both to get certified, because you need to know both the pro features and the free features. At the end, once you get certified, you have access to create your own directory listing. So right now, the only certified person is Patrick, who kind of cheated because he works for the company. and he'll be listed here. So you'll be able to add your profile picture, you'll add your information, your information, and then when people click on that, they'll be able to send you a message, right? So like if you want to, at some point in the future, as a RightTool Pro expert, if you want to help other users get on RightTool, this could be a business you can have. As we grow our company and have a lot more people that need support, especially on the onboarding, we're going to want to hire some of our experts and actually pay you to help, new users, come on board, right? So we'll be doing that. You will have the option to make the profile public or not. So you don't have to make the profile public. So you can just get certified for your own internal sake, and then you can make it public if you want to. In our website, we're building out a directory. This is like the website. You're going to click on directory, and then we're going to have everybody here. We'll have, zip code search, state search, specialty search. We're actually going to build a whole thing around this. Okay. Like we just want to get a couple people certified first, kind of see how it works. But at some point, I think we're going to be able to literally get you leads. People will go in there, they'll find out about RightTool from XYZ person. They got confused with RightTool. They'll find you as an accountant that's an expert in RightTool. And then maybe you'll just do a one-time RightTool consulting thing, or maybe you pick them up as a client. We don't know where this is going to take us. We are just kind of sort of building it. If you build it, they will come type of thing. So we hope that as the directory gets built, we'll do that. Maybe there'll be some nice networking opportunities for pro users to, meet each other and contact each other, that sort of thing. And keep in mind that the certified users won't be listed, only the certified experts. As we build this, we're going to be adding more things. We're going to be adding a formal referral program, an affiliate link, so people can use a coupon. You can give new users a coupon. They can get a discount. You get paid for bringing people into RightTool. We're also considering making deals with other communities. We haven't reached out to these people, but the idea is we reach out to Jason Statt's community and Chad Davis's community and the RightWorks community, and you tell us what communities you belong to, what communities you pay for to be in it, and then we're going to figure out how to create like a discount program or something like that. So we give our certified users a much more elevated access. And we know that if you get certified and you are really deep into this and you're part of other communities, you're going to be a much better advisor. You're going to be a much better accountant. So that's stuff that we're going to be working through in 2026. So for now, by December 15th, you should see both exams ready to go. You should see, and the certified user exam is ready, so you can start testing it. You're going to see both exams. You're going to see the ability to edit your directory listing. We will take, obviously, all sorts of feedback. People say, I would love to add this. I would love to add that. I want to add my LinkedIn profile, whatever. You tell us, what kind of stuff you want to see in the directory listing. You guys know, especially if you're a pro user, you've been using RightTool for a while. We're a very feedback-driven company. We take your feedback. There's a whole new world for us to build a directory, right? So we've only been building software, right? But now we're going to build a directory. So we're going to let the community kind of drive and tell us, what they want to see in this sort of thing. Mark, anything to add or any comments?
No, I think you actually covered it pretty thoroughly, or anything you didn't cover. I think you actually covered everything I pretty much talked about in the in the comments or chat when people ask. People I think are generally wondering, about like the details of how much time they'll have for the test or anything like that. It is open book, or open tab, as I like to say. I promise it's not going to be like super difficult. It is really just to make sure that you kind of know that something exists is kind of the main thing I like to put out there. Um, just because of the fact that a lot of people are like, I don't even know what exists in RightTool. So the certification is more about just knowing that what exists and kind of a vague idea of what it does, so you can know how to help somebody out if they have a specific issue. So it's not going to be crazy difficult. I would not be worried about it. And you have, again, we're going to have 3 retakes. And then even after that, it'll only be like what did you say, like 2 months or 3 months before you can take it again or something like that?
Yeah,
Hector is what you're kind of thinking.
we'll probably do like 60, like a 60-day period.
Yeah.
Mark and I are not shown in the directory yet because we're actually gonna wait until the exam is ready and we're gonna get properly
Yeah.
certified. And Patrick just kind of like flew through just so we can have an example up there. But once we have it ready to go, Mark and I will probably be the first ones that you're gonna see certified up there. But maybe you never know. Maybe one of you guys will beat us to it. Like we're literally gonna make it public once it's ready for everybody.
Yeah.
And we have like a few minutes left. So are there any right tool questions that anybody has that wants us to answer live in here?
Well,
Um,
somebody asked, once certified, is this something we'll need to renew annually? Uh, at First of all, there's not a limited time per section, and then two, um, we are still kind of in the process. We're thinking at the moment it's not going to be needed to be renewed annually, but it depends on how many features we make between now and the next time. We could be going more slow on the features and we'll try to make it so everything kind of stays stable and we just work on improving what is already
yeah,
existing. In that case, it'll be relatively the same. We might do we might do a repeat of the trainings, but then the exams will not require renewal. Um,
yeah, we're gonna leave this open for
yeah.
now. We're not 100% sure, what's about to change. I mean, who knows how quickly we move with the right tool. If we build other tool, like we have put in the table building an entirely different tool for batch editing transactions, but we're doing really well with the right tool one. So we might just continue to build batch editing inside right tool. So unless something changes big in QuickBooks or something breaks, major where like half of our features are gone or whatever, I think once you get certified, you're pretty good. But like, maybe in 3 years or so, so just kind of like, don't worry, you don't have to put it on your calendar yet. We'll give you plenty of time if you have to get recertified.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, and I'm just going to say it in out loud instead of saying it in chat. Somebody's asking what's the difference between Pro and Pro Plus. I'm assuming you mean Lite and Pro Plus. So we have a Lite version of RightTool, which allows you to turn on one Pro feature at a time. So it's kind of like if you only really need the batch delete or something like that, you could have Pro Lite and you'll have patch delete available to you, and it'll be good for that purpose. But then you can't add team members or anything like that. And every time you want to use a different pro feature, you have to go in and change your options for every single time you want to change things. Um, Whereas Pro just gives you access to everything and you can add team members on at a discounted rate. So that's the main difference between the two.
Mark, have we implemented the fact that you have to be logged into the free account to be able to change settings as a free user?
We have the logic in there, but we haven't turned it on.
Okay. So I'll give you a warning if you're a free user, and then I think we have another webinar in 2 days, literally, and we have 2 days to kind of figure this out when the official announcement will be. We'll probably do January 1st at this point because it's just too much of a rush. But one thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna disallow free users to be able to change their settings unless they're logged in with their free account. And again, you have to log in with your free account anyway within the context of getting certified as a free user. But we want to start identifying who our users are. So that's going to encourage people to log in because we want to accelerate the growth of our pro users big time. Like you're going to see in 2026 a huge push for us to convert some of those free users into paid pro users. Kimberly has a good question. Would this product be something we suggest to educate our clients that you consult for? That's an interesting question. Do you read it differently, Mark? Would this product be something we should suggest to educate our clients?
My general suggestion is that RightTool works really well. I think the free version of RightTool, basically anybody can use. And I don't say that just because of the fact that I'm trying to sell it. I think the free version of RightTool is great for anybody, including clients, especially if you get them set up with their own custom bookmarks and you're telling them like this is where you want to go for this X, Y, and Z thing. If we are talking about RightTool Pro, that gets more into the how much do you trust your client situation. Um, so just something to be aware of there is I don't necessarily recommend Pro to just normal business users unless you trust them and you're like they seem like they're savvy enough to know what they're going to do. And yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's at least my viewpoint on it. I don't know. Some people might have different opinions, but and we never one thing to be aware of is we'll never advertise competing services. Like we won't advertise like full on accountants inside of the little ad on the right side of Right Tool.
Kelly has an interesting question. She says, is the strategy to take the test the first time to see what the questions are, and then you can look up the answers? So Kelly, it's an open book test and there's no time. So the question will come up. You can go play with RightTool, watch the video, and then after you get the answer it. So like there's no start and stop, right? Like if you start it, I mean, there's an end it, right, to submit it, but there's no start and stop. Now we have to add a back button to the test. We haven't done that yet. So you'll be able to go back and review your questions, that sort of thing. But the general concept is if you find the right answer, you like this is not a gotcha. This is not a gotcha thing. This is not
Yeah.
to figure out who's smart and who's not type of thing. It's like if you know how to use RightTool, if you can find the answer, that means you know how to use RightTool. At least you've been through the process of watching the video and you know how to go back and find the answer if you need. So that's it. Now, Sharon's asking, have you considered a third pricing option for RightTool? So there's only two pricing options. There's the Pro Lite, which is perfect for a single user, and you only have one Pro feature at a time. And then there's Pro Plus, which gives you unlimited features plus the ability to add additional team members at $25 per. So we haven't considered, and we will not probably not consider something lower than $75 a month, enabling all the tools. Like there's actually, I welcome for you to do a research and find an app that has as many features as we have and works with unlimited clients the way we have for the price. Like, for example, Keeper or now Double, it's an amazing app. You could even argue that it has more features than RightTool, but it's $10 a client, right? So, you have 7-8 clients, you're going to go way over what RightTool costs. Now, is RightTool comparable to Keeper? No, they're actually completely different apps. They're not even like in the same universe when it comes to like competing or whatever. Like that's not a comparison point. But I'm just using Keeper because Keeper's best in class. It's a great app, a great partner. We love Keeper. But the thing is that because we give you because it's one price for unlimited customers, right? And it has so many features that we're dealing with, and we have to kind of race against QuickBooks is changing a million things. We think $75 is the right price point for unlimited access to all the features. And by the way,
And
the RightTool Pro Lite, just really quick, it's unlimited access to all the features. You can just turn one on at a time. You can turn one on, then turn it off and switch, then turn it off and switch. Like it's not one per month. It's you turn one on just per instance and you switch it to something else, switch it to something else. And it's only the pro features, the free features, you can still turn them all on at the same time.
yeah.
Emily asked, can you complete the test in a single sitting? Yes. Can you save your progress and come back to it? So the progress gets saved automatically. If you log out and log back in, you should be at the right. Well, actually, that's in theory. I haven't tested it yet, but in theory,
Honest to God, I'd have to ask Patrick about
yeah,
that.
yeah. But we should be able to do that where you don't have to click save progress. It's just in the middle of the progress. So the minute we add a back button, Emily, I think we should be able to do that very easily. Doug says, what backup program do you recommend with QBO? Not a right tool question, but Rewind seems to be the one that most people talk about. Let's see. Leslie asks, I should clarify I test each feature first, watch the videos. Then if I can't find the solution, ask for help. That's great. Yeah. And then we have videos for each individual feature.
Yeah, exception with some of the more recent ones, and that's my bad.
Okay. Sarah says, how do I get access to a RightTool Pro Lite? So let me just show you that really quick here. So if you're logged in as a free user and you click on Get Started, it will take you into the page where you can select whether you want Pro Plus or Pro Lite, right? So Pro Plus is $75 a month plus $25 per additional user. And then Pro Lite is here, $35 a month, and there's no additional user. So if you already created a free account, all you have to do is click on Go Pro or Get Started, and it will take you to this page where you get to select which version you want to have. That's simple. If you don't have any accounts at all, then you can when you are logged out and you go into righttoolpro.com, you click on register. You have both options here. We have the RightTool Pro option and the RightTool Pro Lite option. And depending on which one you click on, it will take you through the purchase sequence for that edition. Now, what we haven't created, remind me if you know otherwise, Mark, is the ability to move a current account from Pro Plus to Pro Lite. I believe we cannot do
I think
that.
it's in the managed subscription area. Yeah, you can update your plan from there.
Update your plan. Okay, you can.
No.
Oh, so you can go down. The only thing is, what happens if there's additional users? Have we figure out a contingency for that?
I couldn't answer that question for you at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we haven't figured out if there are additional paid users. What happens if you go light? This is something that we're still trying to figure out. That's why we're not recommending doing the downgrade for firms that have multiple users.
Yeah.
Over the long run, when you have multiple users, the price is going to be about the same, or even less.
Yeah, it's better to have multiple users on a single pro plan than it is to have everybody using a light. Like because it is again $75 a month for the first user and then 20 to 5 for each additional. So if you already have an account, you might as well add somebody to your team.
Okay, people are asking, is there a annual discount? So yes, if you switch to yearly, you pay $750 a year and $250 per user, additional user, or $350 for the Pro Lite. So you basically save the equivalent of 2 months by paying a year. Kelly says, I'm an old Pro user that has the old grandfather rate. Is my rate going to change? Your rate stays the same. We have not announced a rate change. For like so for some context, we had some people that were with us when RightTool was 6 features. It was very, very small app. It just started, and people believed in us at the very beginning. You guys are going to be at the old rate until we announce such a change, but we haven't decided one yet on a rate change on those. Okay, I think we can end it now, Mark, so we can have a clean ending there. Exactly 2 hours. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Get certified.